I think what makes Netflix's culture very special is the emphasis on freedom and responsibility, which is part of our culture deck. It ends up being a very high trust culture where we hire senior software engineers to really and give them the freedom to make the right decisions, and then we empower them with the responsibility, and that balance of freedom and responsibility really makes it a place that is attractive to work, as well as engineers really thrive in that environment. So I think that's what keeps people at Netflix. It enables innovation, so that's really, I think, at its core what makes Netflix special. So. The data. So, I'm not a data expert, but big data expert, but at the end of the day, the data that we collect, and we use that in our algorithms to make recommendations, so that when you log into the Netflix experience, you're looking at, we have a vast catalog, but you're really looking at a very small subset of that catalog that has been, we think, is recommended for you based on your taste preferences from previous viewing hours, and we'll basically give you something that we think that you're more likely to watch. So rather than showing you, Quentin Tarantino movies, if you're a big My Little Pony fan, that will show you more My Little Pony or things like My Little Pony. So. Yeah, so we start our streaming service in a data center, and it's a very traditional monolithic Java app on Oracle. And as we projected growth of our streaming service, we realized that we weren't going to be able to scale up the data center at a rate that we thought was going to keep up with the growth of our streaming service. And we looked around, and the cloud was something that was fairly new and growing, and that was a solution to offloading that work of operating a data center to AWS in our case. So that was the major driver. And I say that I've been told that from my colleagues that were there at the time. So yeah, a lot. So a lot of the challenges were just learning how to operate at scale, reliably at scale in a cloud environment, which is an environment where you don't have full control over the servers, and you have other problems, like because you're having a high degree of virtualization, you have things like noisy neighbors. Whole data centers can go out if there's like a hurricane that goes through, like I think it happened to Amazon's US East 1 a few years ago. So being able to build tooling that enabled us to think about our data center differently and think about it more as a cloud and treat it as a cloud, and then approach it with patterns of best practices is really where we ended up. Specific lessons, to consider a service, an instance of a service really as untrusted, so you can't assure that instance is always going to be there. So we'll deploy things in triples or in threes. We have a thing called Chaos Monkey, which will go into the cloud and ensure that your app can withstand an instance falling out of service by killing things in production and making sure that your system can just scale back up another instance, and your service is resilient. So. Yeah. I think open sourcing has given us an opportunity to really share some of the lessons we've learned, to get feedback from other companies that have gone to the cloud to say, is this best practice? Do they have something to contribute? What are their thoughts? To really share our knowledge about open source. And it's not without a cost. There's a cost of maintaining open source. Open source is not free, but it's definitely worth the decision. And we will continue to push out open source. So. Yeah, I think the biggest one is just underestimating the amount of work it takes to maintain an open source project, right? At some point, some projects have the original committer maybe, didn't pay as much attention to a project that's been out for a while, and so The negative of having an open source is you have to constantly curate and maintain and make sure that you're spending time investing in saying, these 5 open source projects, we don't use them anymore, clearly communicating to the community that this open source project is going to go away. We recently had that experience with Asgard. Asgard was our cloud deployment platform. We wrote Spinnaker, which was the next evolution, and there had been a community built around Asgard. So understanding how to communicate to the community our plans, where Asgard was going, and providing some minimal support, but then having a clean handoff to the community, I think is going to be something that we, and I know other companies that do open source at scale have that challenge. So, I think pick anybody who's doing open source at scale is going to have that problem. So, yeah. Yeah, thank you.